Welcome back once again to We Know Severance here on RHAP. We know scripted TV, we know severance.com. That's where you want to go to subscribe to the podcast to make sure you never miss an episode. Though if you're only subscribing now, you are subscribing at the end of the journey of season 2. After 10 episodes, Severance's second season is officially in the bank, and we are here to break it all down. I'm Josh Wigler. I am joined here by my colleagues, Dr. Amanda, Dr. Melissa. I don't have any jokes to make at the start of this thing because I'm
Point one, F you,
wow.
Josh.
Huh?
Point one. Point
I get
two,
it.
I get it.
I get it. Wow.
Sorry,
wow,
I couldn't
wow,
hear you
wow.
over the sound of the incredible marching band behind me.
Oh my God.
That's choreography and merriment, Melissa.
Yeah.
So
Get Nick Cannon on the phone. You know, this is
unbelievable.
It's a drumline reference for the,
we love a drumline reference. I cannot imagine how we could have possibly left season 2 of Severance without some form of MDE.
Totally.
And we at a later point in time, we're going to have to assess the marching band versus Defiant Jazz. It's too close right now to the moment to do that full beat by beat comparison, but that sounds like a great off-season podcast. Major spoilers ahead if you haven't watched the finale. That's the only warning.
Spoilers, even.
Drum major spoilers. That's the only warning you're going to get, as this finale is nuts. We have officially freed Gemma from the testing floor. Audie Mark and Innie Mark collaborated on that joint, albeit not happily, not completely in sync with one another. And in fact, by the end of this thing, not only has Innie Mark decided to stay at Lumon, denying Audie Mark his full reunion with Gemma, it seems like the entire severed floor is on strike and has commandeered the place. And that's the setup going into season 3, is that we own this place now. If only for now.
We're going to burn this mother effer to the ground.
We're going to burn this mother effer to the ground. That's an agonizing thing to have to wait for if we have to wait 3 years for the resolution of this. But holy crap, I think the setup for season 3 based on this finale, pardon my French, fucking rules. I'm very excited for season 3 now. I think the ending of this season set up the next season so well.
Yeah. I think that we can officially say now that Severance knows how to nail a finale.
The finales are bangers. Yeah. Like, does everything make complete logical sense? No. Like, are there certain things in here that are probably like, if you stop down and be like, I don't know if it would happen. Like, who cares? The vibes were immaculate. It was such a tense heist. It's everything that you want from a Severance episode. Some of it is like nonsensical in like a dreamlike way, right? And then I think emotionally just like kills you, and then viscerally just sends you on such a ride. Just really, really a roller coaster. I loved it. I thought the finale was great.
Yeah, it's so funny after a season where we'd had conversation about, is this show getting away from kind of its core premise and its commentary on the plight of the worker and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, we're back, baby. We're going to talk about this a lot. And I'm very excited as we, simply love to see the people reclaiming their power and banding together. I think it's interesting. I saw together. Yeah, someone, and sorry, I'm totally blanking on who it was. People were talking in the Discord about the fact that Severance ultimately tends to be a story that veers towards the hopeful, that talks about kind of the power of said workers. And so they were hopeful that the finale would be the same way. And I think that's what this is, right? Is like, okay, like we saved Gemma. She's doing good. Mark's got some decisions to make. And so far, he's made some of them, but we'll see how that goes. But like the people have realized that they have power in this situation if they band together. And the nuance of that, where they like also have outies that now are sort of being held hostage, maybe. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I think it's going to be very cool. I'm so excited.
Well, the Audis put them there. Maybe the Audis need to like.
Exactly.
Maybe the Audis need to know a little bit firsthand what it looks like to work there. And one of the things that strikes me as a very cool opportunity, I swear we'll break down the episode, but I think like it's hard not to talk about the ramifications of the finale right away. One of the things that's really exciting about a possibility for season 3 is we know that it's Innie Mark on the severed floor, but it's Audie Mark on the testing floor. And you would imagine that that's the same case for the rest of the Innies. So there are opportunities for Audie Mark and Helena Egan and Audie Dylan to be on the testing floor and not just like interact with each other, but theoretically interact with the Innies, because we have found ways to do that, right? Like we've seen in this episode, the really compelling scene between Innie Mark and Audie Mark talking to each other via camcorder. Huh? Okay, we didn't just want to use an iPhone here, but let's do the full camcorder. There's possibilities for like any for Heli and Helena to have conversations in season 3. So the existence of the testing floor as a way to like let the Audis get a little bit of a sense of what it's like at Lumon, that's really cool. I really hope we linger in this for a while. I want to like stay in this status quo for a bit in season 3. I don't want this to just be one episode, we yada yada through it, and then Lumon breaks down the door. This feels like such a good setup for a majority of a season, if not an entire season to me.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that you said, Josh, that there's a fascinating groundwork that was laid here. I think that a lot of the sort of promises of the premise came to fruition in this episode. Like, for example, getting Innie Mark and Audie Mark to have a conversation with each other, seeing the implications of the fact that Innie Mark is in love with Heli. Heli is an Egan on the outside.
I thought
Audie
it was
Mark.
Helene. Wasn't it Helene is her
That's
name?
right, it's
Helene.
Helene.
Oh my gosh.
Actually.
Did
Audie
Mark pull the
that
same
was bad,
thing on
sloppy work.
his Innie as Helena pulled on him? Is that what's happening here? Like, is this just revenge?
Fascinating. I can't wait to get into it. But yeah. So explosive episode, just like the season 1 finale, which was much shorter. I was at rapt attention throughout this entire 76 minutes. I thought that this was a stunning episode from top to bottom. It looked beautiful. The performances were great. That had all of that kind of bizarre, eerie, and also humorous tone. I was so thrilled that we got Dylan back in the mix, even if like that felt maybe a little bit contrived. But I think that the thing that we had been missing a little bit throughout the rest of this season was that Severance was kind of this sci-fi dark thriller that was wrapped in a candy-coated office comedy coding. And we didn't really get as much of the office comedy, which is not just funny, but it's also heartwarming, right? If we think about The Office, if we think about Parks and Rec and all of these things that we love, Adam Scott in Party Down, it's not just the jokes, it's also the relationships and the familiarity and the comfort that we get with these characters and wanting to be around them and watch them flirt and watch them tease each other. And we didn't get that much of that this season, but I think that having Dylan back in the mix and seeing he and Heli work together, seeing Mark and Heli work together, seeing Gemma be involved in that as another character, and Milchick as his character has evolved. I think that this felt like an extremely satisfying finale to me.
Yeah, totally agreed. And I think also if you wanted that candy coating back on this show, Lord knows the Severance finale was candy apple red for sure.
Yeah.
Yikes. Very bloodiest episode of Severance for sure.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a Lumon heavy, I think is what I've learned. Like
doesn't end well for those guys.
If you're a Lumon heavy, you either get baseball batted to the brain or you get goat gunned to the throat.
It was an oopsie though. It's
just an oopsie daisy, you know?
Yeah. You know, and also I gotta be honest, Audie Mark was relatively chill about it. Like Audie Mark,
I would have. I don't know what I would have done. I would have absolutely to realize that he wakes up as that is happening and has zero context. He's just in an elevator with a man bleeding out. He's covered in blood, holding it. Like I don't know what I would have done. I would have had some sort of mental break. It would have been really bad.
well, he's mission oriented, and all he cares about is getting Gemma back. So he's immediately back on track. But I feel like Mark Scout's first arrival in like the bowels of Lumon at the very bottom floor, as far as we know, there could be further depths to descend. For him to like go there in such a like immediately visceral, visually violent way feels very fair. It feels like a very fair, like, you know, overly dramatized, obviously for the sake of TV, but for the choices that he made to, as he says, like create this person who he's also talked to rather dismissively and like pedantically throughout this episode, to like have that visceral, immediate feeling of what it's been like to be here, like for years of that experience to translate to this one immediate violent moment with Mr. Drummond, and waking up to that. I think that's fair. I think that's fair for Mark Scout to experience.
Yeah. To just throw one more thing into the mix before we get into our beat by beat, going through the episode. I think it was fascinating to see, because we had sort of taken for granted the fact that like Innie Mark and Audie Mark were our protagonists, and that they both wanted to take down Lumon in some way, and that what they teamed up, it would be, you know, for good. But you know, maybe we shouldn't be surprised by this, but Innie Mark and Audie Mark become antagonists to each other in this episode. And I think that they are ops. And I think that is a really, really fascinating development, much like Helena and Heli. So we have all of these different dynamics of characters with themselves to get into, and a lot of that has developed over the course of the last couple episodes.
Yeah, makes it very clear that Innie Mark was not on board with reintegration and had no, you know, awareness of it. And when he's alerted to it, it's like, okay, but how do you know that it's not going to just be you? Like, what are we talking about here? And there being no good answer to that question for him. I stand Innie Mark. I think
Innie Mark's your guy. You're
Innie Mark's my guy.
Mark.
I think people are going to be very upset with Innie Mark because he left Gemma screaming in the stairwell, which, you know, fair, I suppose. But also he got her to the stairwell. And I hope that they all had a plan. I hope that like Harmony is just right there to scoop Gemma up. I don't really know what happens to Gemma, but Innie Mark saved her and then chooses himself and Heli. I think that's all right. I'm on board with that. I think it's fair. But I think this is going to be highly debated. I think some people are going to be pretty mad about how this works out.
I'm not mad that he left or that he didn't leave, because I think like he's got more people to save, right? Innie Mark isn't done, right? So he got Jem out. Now he's got to go worry about all of his friends.
He's got to fight for their existence.
Exactly. So like, I think that this is fine. Ultimately, it's not my favorite that it's being so heavily like, well, is it Heli or is it Gemma and whatever? Because I think that there's just like more to it than that. But I don't begrudge Innie Mark going back and being part of the fight, right? It's not over. And I think that that's so exciting that choice has so much forward momentum to it. Yeah, it's going to be great. Also, people not ops with their innies. Dylan, that was so cute.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about it. Let's get into it. Let's like
that was our initial review. I think we're high on the episode. We've got questions about the episode too. I'm sure things that didn't work as well for us about the episode, but it's a jam-packed episode. Let's do the recap. So let's get into it. Let's start with we start right where we left off, Amanda.
Yeah, Devin asked Mark if he remembers the last thing she said to him. And, you know, remember that immediate callback to the season 1 finale, she's alive. And Coobel wants to know if Mark has finished Cold Harbor.
Have you finished Cold Harbor?
He is not, which means that Gemma is still alive and we can save her. She tells Mark about the testing room hall. Mark recognizes what she's describing from Irving's drawings, which catches her off guard. She
Right.
seems taken aback by this. But the good news is that the Innies already know where this is.
Yes. Stopping down quickly on Coobel's surprise about this. We have speculated along the way. First of all, there's no Irving, so it was a wrap on Irving last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the season.
Hopefully absence just makes the heart grow fonder. I did speak to John Turturro. There's an interview between me and him at the Hollywood
Whoa.
Reporter.
Yeah.
And
Casual
he's
drop.
very clear that there's more to do. He feels like he got like a load of backstory from Dan Erickson before the show started, because he's not used to ongoing series work. He's done a lot of TV, but it's largely limited series. He spoke about how he needs like a spine for a character. So there was a lot that he was given. Some of it has changed a little bit along the way, but he's kept true to it emotionally. And I asked him if this was the end, would it be satisfying or there's more to do? He's like, no. There's other stuff, like, and it has to be done in a visceral way, is basically what he said.
Music to my ears.
So we will see more Irving for sure. I feel pretty
Retro band
confident
music.
about that. That being said, we also speculated along the way if Coobel and Irving were working together. And I think an initial read here is Coobel is like surprised to hear this. But I think another read could be that like, shit, it worked. Like some sort of like, what are we doing? Like what sort of plan have Irving and Coobel been working on to like engage some awareness in Innie Irving from Audie Irving? And now we've got the testing floor thing. That feels to me like you could read it two ways. I think you could read it as she's just like shocked that happened, or you could read it as like, okay, shit, it's working.
Yeah, interesting. I would have to go back and watch that again, because I initially took it as, okay, this rules her out as being involved. But interesting there. We go from the birthing retreat to MDR, where we pick up again where James is confronting Heli. On the theories and feedback show, Melissa and I speculated very much about whether it's possible that this could have been Helena Egan on the test on the severed floor instead of Heli. Very, very clear that this is actually Heli, and James knows he's talking to Heli. What a funny speech you gave at the party. I was cross with you after. I threw a tin of candies.
Yeah, that's what I do whenever I'm like mega pissed. I just find the nearest candy tin and toss it like
Shock
a
those
disc.
gummy nerds, you know?
Yeah.
He's an old man. That probably like takes a lot of effort and strength in his condition.
And emotional effort as well, as we know, the elderly rely upon their candy tins.
They run on candy.
You know, and so that's like getting rid of your true lifeline is getting rid of that candy tin. Yeah, and Heli says, "You're so weird. God, you're effing weird," which is great. James reveals that he used to love his daughter. He does not anymore. He used to see Kier in her, but he left her as she grew. And so I sired others in the shadows. He wasn't in them either.
Creepy perv.
He's disgusting. James Egan sucks. I hope that he also gets Drummonded by the end of season 3. But he makes it clear that he sees Kier in her.
Heli.
He sees Kier in Heli. So is Heli the chosen one? Is that basically what he's saying? Does he want to
promised?
Does he want to shut down Helena in favor of Helene? Is that the plan?
Really interesting. I mean, like, this gets down to the sort of, I think, one of the central questions of Severance, which is, who are you? And this idea that kind of the uncorrupted, unencumbered, purest Innie form of Helena has this fire in her. And this is what James is identifying as the fire that that represents the spirit of Kier. Is that true? I don't know. I mean, all we know is this animatronic Kier and these creepy texts that we've heard read in a creepy animatronic, I think, distorted Ben Stiller voice. But for whatever reason, James is associating that with this essence of Kier, who is like the most revered person in all of their mythology. But in Helena, for whatever reason, that was worn away and faded. I think that this is interesting because this is not what I've gotten from Kier. Like Kier is not giving Heli.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a pioneer, I guess. But yeah, this whole like, oh yeah, you're, feisty, like I don't know. Yeah, some sort of
wiles.
yeah.
You know?
Wiles.
Wiles.
Yeah, verve.
She's got wiles, she's got
Probity?
verve.
Yeah, vision.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think that she does
Mhm.
embody these things that they seem to think are like great traits, which I do think are like great traits, but they also seem to think that like were embodied by Kier. And I think that
Mhm.
everything we have heard about Kier makes us feel like, well, that guy was awful. But you
Yeah.
know, that's because we're not part of the brainwashed cult.
Yeah.
But like, does Heli match those traits? You know, independent of being like, that means she's like Kier Egan. Yeah, I do think so. I think that
Mhm.
that's fair. But it makes me wonder what the plan is. I think by like, it makes me feel like what we know about MDR in this episode, some, you know, incredible reveals, is
Mhm.
that, you know, it's confirming basically what was, you know, largely hinted at, if not spelled out earlier in the season, that the numbers for Mark, at least, he was refining Gemma and
The
refining
numbers
Gemma.
are your wife.
The numbers are your wife. He was refining Gemma into individual personalities, into different personalities, into different severed profiles.
Mhm.
So what is that looking like for Irving? What is Irving doing?
Mhm.
What is Dylan doing? Are those dudes just doing nothing, or is there something that they are doing?
Yeah.
And then, much more to the point, what is Heli doing? Because she's not just
Mhm.
down there for nothing. That's Helena Egan. And if James is saying that, like, I see him in you, is there some sort of
Ooh.
thought or some sort of theory that by like rebirthing Heli in her like rawest, purest state and having her refine data, is she refining the individual characteristics of Kier Egan? Is she rebuilding Kier Egan? And is Mark and Gemma somehow testing the ability to do that and setting Heli up to be able to do the same thing? So that's
Interesting.
something I'm wondering after this episode and trying
Mhm.
to process all the information that's revealed here.
Yeah. Heli tells James, you and your family created hell and you're going to burn in it. And James says, tomorrow's a special day. So we go back to the birthing retreat here, and we're in the midst of Coobel describing all of this to Mark. When he finishes Cold Harbor, they'll do a test and then they'll kill her. Devin starts to explain this plan. He should finish the file, and then Mark's outie will find Gemma. Mark will guide her to the stairwell. They'll sort of tag team this, ushering Gemma through all of these places until she's safe in that sort of stairwell hall that we've seen before. Mark and Devin
Which
says
is why I
this is,
feel like I really
yeah.
hope that they have people in the stairwell. You know,
Yeah.
like Gemma can't
That
just be
can't
there.
be, but you have to have, I don't know though, because like security, you can't, like, they're not just gonna let a rando down there.
Yeah,
This is
I think.
pretty, yeah, I don't know. You think so, Josh? We'll see. We'll see what they have figured out.
Well, I just wonder what's going to happen because apparently she's locked out. So are they just going to scoop her right back up? That feels awful. I really
No
hope
way.
not.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would be terrible. And like Devin says that part of the plan is if they can prove that Gemma is alive and that Lumon kidnapped her, it will end Lumon.
Right. Right.
Mark has an excellent question. But what happens to us?
Yeah.
What happens to every innie on the severed floor? You want me to give my life and the lives of everyone down there to save one person you care about.
Mm-hmm. A fair
Damn.
question. A fair
They didn't
question.
really think this one all the way through, Melissa.
No.
I get the feeling that like this wasn't part of their preparatory pitch.
Yeah, I think it's so funny that there's just been so little thought as to the perspective of Innie Mark. And I think it's because without having seen it on TV, I think it's really hard to imagine the experience of like that being all you know and that being
Yeah.
you experiencing time in that way. And so I don't think it's until they actually talk to someone with lived experience,
Right.
not that we could make any larger claims about the world, that
Mhm.
it's really difficult to put themselves in those shoes. And Innie Mark has this reaction that's like, obviously, that's not in my best interest right now.
Right.
And that's a huge thing for you to ask of me. And Audie Mark seems like annoyed that his Innie is just like going along with the
He's a
plan.
child.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it is really fascinating, and it validates this thing that, you know, the innies have assumed to be true at various points, and that I think is sort of implicit in the whole idea that anyone would agree to this, is you cannot fully believe that the person that you are subjecting to that world is a whole person, right? It's
Yeah.
like and the way that they feel like it's very reminiscent to what we saw Heli's outie, Helena, say to her in that video the first time we
You are
saw
not a person.
innies and outies converse in this very manner via a videotape, was, you are not, I am a person, you are not. And even though I don't think that our Audie Mark has ever believed anything so harsh, he certainly believes that he has more right to this body and this personhood than this thing that's exists 40 hours a week for 2 years. Like, and he can't understand, like, he's actually seeing this consciousness for the very first time
Yeah.
in these camcorder interactions, and he's so desperate to save the woman that he loves, that he had presumed dead for 2 years, and that upon learning that she is alive, which is wonderful, he also learns that she is being tortured by an evil corporation. So, I mean, I have to say, as much as it's easy for us to sympathize with Innie Mark, who, like, has been a victim of all of this, has not had the agency to make these decisions, and is sweet and innocent, and we've loved spending time with him. I don't want to say that Audie Mark is a monster, because I
No.
think that his motivations here are completely understandable, but it's fascinating that this sort of like just belies this conceit that the outies will never consider the innies full people. For the same reason, it would be really hard for any of us to believe that there's something that has as much right to our body and our bodily autonomy and the decisions we make as we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's for me, one of the ways this reads is like Mark Scout. Like it's like people who become parents because that's what you're supposed to do, almost, where it's like you become a parent and you have a kid, and then you're disappointed, like you can't understand why the kid just doesn't do what you want the kid to do, and like you did not fully think through the fact that you were creating a fully autonomous individual with their own instincts, with their own desires, with their own experiences, and suddenly you're shocked when they don't share your value set, or that their priorities are different from you. I mean, he says to Innie Mark, I created you. So is he his father? Is he his God? But that's like sort of there's a dynamic there where I think Audie Mark made a life-altering decision, a very heavy decision, without having thought through the consequences of the thing. And that's, again, not to demonize him at all.
Yeah.
It's just to like highlight that it's, making choices in life is very, very hard.
It has especially when another consciousness is involved.
Yeah, like these are very, very important choices that are worth thinking through if you can. And so I really read that as like why isn't my kid like eating the food? I made it for him. Like it just it really has that vibe.
Why does
of,
my
like,
daughter want to live in a Buddhist monastery for a year?
That's right.
Yeah.
Mark, no. No.
Buddhism.
Eganism. Lumon.
So yeah, so Mark,
No idea what you both are doing, but that's
It's the
fine.
White Lotus.
we're just like having a stroke over here or something. But Mark gets to like converse with himself over camcorder, as we've been alluding to, and I think it starts out pretty well. Like Audie Mark starts out, I think, from a pretty sincere place, and I think that Innie Mark is like, there is something very beautiful in Adam Scott's acting performance throughout all of this scene and the whole series. I mean, we have noted just how good he is at creating these distinct versions of a character that feels like the same person in very, very different circumstances. And Audie Mark, says that, you know what we're asking, but the first thing I need to say to you is I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I created you as a prisoner, as an escape. Lumon told me that you'd be happy, that innies are content. And because I believe them, you've been living a nightmare for the past 2 years. Part of the reason I'm here is to make it right. And I hope that with all we have in common, you'll give me that chance. And, this is, of course, like, it's coming from this point of view that, like, he's ultimately the decision maker in this shared relationship of people that share a body. But he comes in sort of, he's like using I statements. He was like, this is why I did this. And I didn't, really think of you and all the implications of that. And I am coming to you in an attempt to make that right in some way. And Innie Mark is like, they both have this great sort of like intrigued and curious and like kind of delighted reaction to seeing the other one on the screen. Hi, wow, I never expected to speak to you, let alone get an apology. So thank you. Nightmare isn't the right word, because we actually find ways to make it work, to feel whole, which is why what you're asking scares me, because whatever this life is, it's all we have and we don't want it to end. Can you understand that? So
Audie Mark is like so shocked by that, I think.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, that was not the response I thought I was getting.
It starts out in a super reasonable place without Innie Mark saying like, this is why I'm scared by what you're saying. And Audie Mark has said, this is why we're in this situation. And then immediately Audie Mark like F's it all up big time. I got a kick out of Audie Mark saying, I'd say the same thing in your position. It's like, you exactly would. Like, that is verifiably true. That's exactly
that's literally what's happening. He's saying that.
And then
I also like the however, like, I feel like it really does become, pretty patronizing pretty quickly.
And it sounds like Lumon. I think it's like, it takes that paternalistic, patronizing bullshit tone that assumes that you're not smart enough to figure it out. And it's very manipulative. And Innie Mark can smell this a mile away, because that is the world that he lives in. He lives in the world of people making promises that are fake promises, telling lies, manipulating you, getting you to do what they want you to do that only benefits them without any consideration for you. And when Audie Mark tries to go in hard with this pitch, he becomes Coobel and Milchick and like every other, source of bullshit that Innie Mark has been fed in his life on the severed floor. And this, this kind of escalates. Innie Mark calls bullshit on reintegration. Do you get the right side and I get the left, or is it a top bottom of thing?
Yeah, I got dibs on top bunk.
And it kind of escalates, and Audie Mark's kind of last gasp at this is to appeal to Innie Mark about the heartache of losing his wife. And he says, I mourned Gemma for 2 years. I lost my job because I started showing up drunk. I hid her stuff in the basement because it was easier to pretend she never existed. I thought I was protecting you from that pain.
Did he though?
Did he think he was protecting himself from that pain?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But even this part was okay. The place where he fatally
7.5 out of 10, I'll give it.
Yes. It's like a passing grade.
Like, we're building back up. Okay. And then he rolls a nat 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
Miss Coobel told me you like someone down there. Helena Egan? her Innie's name is Helena. I love that you got that experience. Like, I love that for you. But now you can imagine what you and Helena have, but multiplied by 1,000 days of joy, arguments, passion. Then you can understand why I have to get my wife back.
No.
Not good. Not great,
No.
Mark. This is very reminiscent of when Helena misnames Gemma at the Chinese
Totally.
restaurant.
Yes.
And it's just like, if I really cared about you, I would bother to either know her name or ask you about it instead of
Right.
presuming that I know everything I need to know about this.
Yeah. But that being said, like, one, you know, I still love both Marks. You know, I feel for both Marks. And one of the ways that I really
You're
feel
just
for
like Miss Coobel. You care for him.
one of the ways that I really feel for Audie Mark is that Audie Mark has yet to figure out how to like properly cope. That just hasn't happened for him yet.
Not his strong suit, yeah.
You know, he as he says, he created Innie Mark to avoid the pain. That is what he did. That is the reason why he severed. And since he has found out that having severed himself was a you know, an acquiescence to this dark entity known as Lumon, and that he has in fact become an instrumental part of their evil plans. His choice there has now been like, well, then I'm going to go team up with the shadow scientist who's going to drill a hole in my freaking head. And like, that'll solve everything. And then we'll save Gemma, and that's going to solve everything too. He's done very little emotional work. He's done very little like actual internal growth here.
Yeah.
He's still been so fixated on the trauma. He's been so fixated on the grief. He has not been able to see clearly a path through any of that, which is highly relatable. I totally get
men
it.
will literally drill a hole in their head rather than go to
Yes,
therapy.
then go to therapy. Exactly. And like, look, even if you go to therapy, you're still sometimes looking for that drill through your head.
Yeah.
You know, and so but he hasn't even had a wellness session, you know, like that has not happened for him. So for him to not be like super emotionally mature or developed in this moment in time and in tune with Innie Mark tracks for me. You know, like it totally tracks, feels very honest to the character and the journey that he's been on. Conversely, Innie Mark has been doing that work. Innie Mark has been doing that internal work. You know, he is developing in that way. He is realizing that the circumstances that he is in are dark and deadly, and that the things that he has been told by the powers that be may not in fact be the way that it has to be, and may not in fact be what they're even saying in the first place. He's learning to not just like question authority, but he's also learning to trust himself and learning to trust other people and lean on other people. He is doing that work. So for him to be asked to give up so much from Audie Mark, there's just no way that Audie Mark's pitch is going to work. So I just think it's really fascinating that while Audie Mark is doing none of the internal work, that's all that Innie Mark has been doing.
Such a good point. And like fascinating to think that maybe like all of these Innies are actually like the best of what these characters are. We know that Heli has the fire of Kier. We know that Dylan is like a super confident badass. You know, Innie Mark is more emotionally mature, certainly. You know, Bert is not evil, presumably. You know, like so
and Irving found love.
Irving found love. So I mean, I but I don't have anything disparaging to say about Audie Irving.
I agree. Audie Irving is basically
Audie Irving is also pretty great. But interesting to think that it's possible that these Innies are actually the best version of the person. And you know, fascinating to think, Josh, as you mentioned, it's like they haven't had a place to hide. They don't have booze. They don't have TV. They don't have these things that they can like, they can't sever their experiences. They're just showing up and dealing with it.
Yep.
And maybe that's what makes them as good as they are. Fascinating. Innie Mark is calling bullshit
He's
on
pissed. It's Heli,
reintegration.
actually. It's Heli, which you would know if you ever had taken an interest in my life before tonight when you needed something. She's who I lose if all of this goes away. Because
The
you
woman
know
that
as
I
well
love. Yeah.
you know as well as I do that she won't reintegrate, assuming that's even real and assuming every word out of your mouth isn't a lie. It took a turn. It turned. The whole thing has turned.
Yeah.
This is so funny because it's like the writing here is so good because it is both like very well reasoned, like, hey, this doesn't work for me, and you know, facts that, you know, this Innie Mark is feeling like he's only now being thought of because it's Gemma that's in trouble. But there's also this like adolescent petulance to all of this as well. Like, you would know if you cared anything about me. And it was just like, it's
You're
such
not
a
my
good-
real dad, Mark.
Yeah.
You're
It's
not my
just so
dad.
funny
You don't
that
get to
it's
tell me
like-
what to do.
Is both of those so well. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, you know, Audie Mark says, well, I mentioned reintegration and he basically called bullshit. And Devin's like, well, he's not wrong,
He's
right?
not wrong. Yeah,
Because
well, she has not been super pro reintegration for what
No.
it's worth.
Right. And like, and the truth is, yeah, I mean, Innie Mark is right. There is no incentive to reintegrate once Mark has his wife back. Like, why would he do that? Like, why would he continue to endanger himself and make himself more confused than he already is after having gone through all of this? It being exposed at some point, he says, I have my trauma, you have your trauma, we have each other's. It's like, who needs more trauma at this point?
Yeah.
So I think that it's very astute of Innie Mark to call bullshit on that. Also, for what it's worth, reintegration doesn't work that well.
Yeah.
So far, so bad.
So far, not great. Not great
Yeah.
results by Ragabi, who, by the way, nobody can get in touch with. So that's all that happens. Innie Mark's last, you know, Innie Mark is about to be done, but Coobel wants a chance to speak with him.
One last attempt. The Hail Mary. Let's give it up for Miss Coobel. So Miss Coobel says, the numbers are your wife. The MDR numbers from your console. We also get a really good Mark. Mark.
Yeah, she gives a couple of those marks in a row.
It's pretty good.
She always hits her marks, Patty.
She always hits her mark.
Yeah. So we've suspected this. I think a lot of the listeners, anybody who's been watching the show and has been listening to podcasts or reading the Reddit has figured a lot of this out, but we do get confirmation in the text. The numbers are a doorway into the mind of your Audie's wife, Gemma Scout, what you see, and then asks what he sees when he looks at them. We feel things. What do you feel? Sometimes sadness. Coobel jumps in. Woe, frolic, malice, and dread. The clusters are tempers, the building blocks of her mind. Mark asks, what am I building? Coobel says, every file you've completed is a new consciousness for her, a new Innie. Mark's like, I've completed 24 files.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're about to go for unlucky number 25. So he's created 24 people. That's a horrible thing to, you know, to learn that you've been doing the same thing unwittingly. Like, you've been creating these people as well. And not only that, like, he understands how difficult it is for his experience. I don't know that he can fully comprehend what it might be like to be 24 different people in one. And I thought about that a little bit in like, so he, you know, and like Dr. Maurer is going to yell at him like, you'll kill them all. And then like he brings Miss Casey up and then brings Miss Casey through the door. And theoretically, that's the death of Miss Casey. That's the death of these 24 people. I don't know how far he has thought it through. And I think that there is an interesting question here of like, Is he just doing the thing that he's accusing Audie Mark of by,
Right.
freeing Gemma? Or is this like a mercy thing? It's hard to really parse that out. For me, it feels, like whether or not it's conscious or not, like this feels merciful. But I don't know. It's hard.
Ethically extremely complex.
Yeah.
It's shaky ground for sure. And Coobel adds that since Cold Harbor is the last file, tomorrow will be your final day at Lumon. You will have served your purpose, and so will she.
Yes. And they will beat the shit out of you until you are choked out and dead, apparently. Like, once you're done with this, you're
Something
totally
like
cool to
that,
just be
yeah.
murdered. Yeah, she left that part out, but apparently that's how it was going to roll.
They'll discard you like a skin husk.
Yeah,
Oof.
this was like the obvious next step, but I don't know that I had really put this together. And clearly, I don't think Mark had put this together, that it's like once Gemma is gone, they don't need Mark anymore. And so Innie Mark will also like no longer, they're just going to, presumably fire Mark and like never have Innie Mark come back. I don't know that I had like taken this next logical step and realized. So I think this is quite the like mic drop moment for Innie Mark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They'll be done with Gemma. They'll be done with Mark. There will be no honeymoon ending for Mark and Heli R because she's an Egan and you're nothing to them. Innie Mark says, I think you're the ones that are using me. And he tells Devin, the next thing I see better be the severed floor or he'll never see his wife again.
Mark, I care for you, says Miss Coobel. I care for you, Mark.
Still don't know what's going on in that crazy lady's brain.
Honestly, that definitely lent some credence to the thruple theory. I felt like, she just wants to thruple up with the Marks.
Well, get in line, okay? Get in line, lady.
So the next thing we see is Mark waking up on the severed floor. So we are denied of like the immediate fallout of that and any further formation of the plan. Though I think that we can assume it's like, well, shit, we have no other choice. So we gotta just like do that and hope that he does the right thing.
Right.
Yeah, this storytelling of the back and forth between like the Innie and Audie perspective was very cool. Like it was very fun to see them turn on the camera.
Super
and
well done.
Different perspective. Very fun.
And like the two chairs and like, fading in and fading out from outside to inside was pretty cool. I think in a future scenario where we get to have similar conversations like this, if like the Dylans can talk, if Heli and Helena get to confront each other, I would like to see them push it even a little bit further. And let's just we can visually cut the camcorder. We don't need to see that. Like we can tolerate the idea that like they are sitting in the same room, but it's not the same thing. Like I feel like that could be very cool to see the like, sort of the between two ferns of these Innies and Audies.
Can we get like Zach G up in here? I
mean, like if we're like getting like some of the like if we're getting Bob Balaban for a one-off, I don't know why we can't get
bring it on.
Remember when we were so worried about all those actors who were joining the show, and then it turned out that they were all here for like 5 seconds each.
We get somebody. Somebody came. Gwendolyn Christie comes back in this episode.
Justin, it's been a great year for Lawrence.
Good year for Lawrence. So the first thing that Mark sees is the severed floor, indeed, just as you requested. It's also a brand new, extremely creepy mural.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did y'all stomp down on this mural?
Oh yeah.
So they're at Woe's Hollow, right?
They're at the tallest waterfall in the world.
They're the tallest waterfall.
Yeah, the Egan standing atop the tallest waterfall in the world. Yes.
And then
that's definitely like Helena in the middle of this like band.
It is,
right? Yeah.
Indeed. She's in the middle.
So she's the promised one. She's the chosen one.
She's right atop the waterfall, tallest waterfall in the world. And then Mark is sitting at his console and like his face is ecstatic and his arm is like raised towards the heavens because praise Kier, he has presumably finished the 25th file,
Yeah.
Cold Harbor, and all of his friends are there to cheer him on. We have everybody in the house. I'm looking at my screenshot that I took with my phone right now. We even have Bob Balaban, alias Shakwat. Bless his heart, I can't remember the Italian actor's name, but he's wonderful. We even have Rebecca and Patton are way back
I missed
there.
that. That's so funny. I saw Devin and Rickon, but that's
we
great.
have Devin and Rickon.
Wow, we haven't seen Rickon in a long time.
We haven't
it's
seen
nice
Rickon
to
in a
see
long
him back
time.
on the
Here
show.
he is. Petey
If I have
is
a complaint to lodge with HR, why no more Rickon? That sucks.
Petey is there. Irving is there. Obviously, our core four are there. Miss Casey, Mr. Milchick. We have Miss Wong with her theremin. Natalie's there. We even have not just our core four innies, even their animatronic mannequins are depicted in the background on one side. And we have Grainer, of course. Lorne is there.
Drummond?
We have that creepy ghost of a weird little woman that we saw in Goat's. Basically, everybody is in this mural.
Yeah.
Everyone's there.
This mural has everything.
I have to say,
who does these murals?
Yes, I want to know, because like Lumon surveillance, not their strong suit.
Sucks. Their surveillance team is the worst and needs to be fired whole hog.
But if you need tight turnaround on a claymation video or a mural, there's nobody better in the whole business.
I mean, the arts department in general is just clearly slaps the hardest with this.
That's where they
the marching band, the murals, the claymations. Like Lumon.
Look, I mean, they have that dance
in Hell Science.
They have the dance troupe from the waffle party.
Lumon's arts and sciences. You know, like they've got that down.
Yeah. Amazing.
Everything else, hospitality, like everything else could use a tune-up. Could use
some work. Yeah. Heli comes off the elevator not too long after Mark. Mark says, I have to tell you something. Heli says, me too. They've both had a weird night. And they walk through the halls with the lights flashing as they walk. The super eerie effect that we're going to see echoed throughout this episode.
This is like, this is, a question that I have about a lot of things today. A question that I have about a lot of things in our modern age is like, you guys know you're evil, right? Like, when you're doing the evil things that you're evil, right? Like, you know that?
Yeah.
Like, you know that when you make those evil decisions that you're the bad guy. You have to, right? Like, you have to know that. In the same vein of like, this whole setup, visually, aesthetically, stylistically, how do you do any of this? Like, put a mannequin with an envelope, have like the lights flickering, like, you're the bad guys, right? Like,
they lean hard into bad guy aesthetic over at Lumon.
This is super villain aesthetics. Like, you have to know that, right? Like, how is there a disconnect where you don't know that?
Anything worth doing, I can't comprehend. Yeah, they lean all the way into it. So there's a large animatronic Kier Egan in the middle of the MDR room, and he's holding an envelope. Mark takes it. It's addressed to him. He reads it. Mark, the founder wished to witness the historic completion of your 25th file. Heli R shall also bear witness from her chair. Goodly splendors await upon your victory. Signed, Mr. Milchick. And this is a pop-up card that shows a waffle on a plate. So
yeah.
It's a pretty cool card. I gotta admit.
Again, the arts department.
Yeah, on point.
Yeah.
No notes for arts department. Heli tells Mark that James was here. He came to see me. He said some cryptic shit about the fire of Kier being in me and that today's a special day. Mark knows why they're doing all of this.
Yeah. So we're going to have a longer conversation with them. A couple of other things are happening simultaneously that I think maybe we can take in from their specific points. So let's start with Milchick and Dylan. So Dylan shows back up, and Dylan is surprised because it's the very next thing that he experiences. He says he said no, and Milchick brings him to the break room. And in the break room, he says, your outie responded to your resignation request. since it might yield an embarrassing emotional response in you, and as I am duly swamped, I'll leave you to read it in solitude.
And then he
So
runs, he sprints
He-
away.
It's amazing.
beelines it. All that's missing is the helmet. So otherwise he's just like motor scooting out
Yes.
the door.
I've been there, Milchick. Duly
Oh, yeah.
swamped.
Duly
Yeah.
swamped for
For sure.
sure. Dylan reads this note. It's from his outie. I've read your request. I've organized response into 3 points. Point 1, fuck you. Gretchen is my wife and my beloved, and your actions with her were deeply undecorous.
Uh-huh.
Is that a Dylan word, undecorous?
He sprinkles some of them in there.
does, it
It's a
does.
lot more natural coming from him than some of the other characters.
Yeah. Point 2, I get it. She's perfect.
Aw.
I've never been an impressive person, so when Gretch told me that you're this self-assured badass, I don't know. It's dumb. But point 3 is that I hope one day she sees in me what she sees in you. And if I'm being really honest, I like knowing you're there. So if you want to leave, you can. But I think you should stay. Sincerest regards, your outie. And Dylan doesn't cry. There was no embarrassing emotional response
No.
from Dylan.
No. So, I mean, I guess that the interpretation of this is that Audie Dylan is still like he would allow Innie Dylan to stay, but he's asking him to wait and consider this, that he likes knowing that there's this part of him that might have these qualities that's still around. It still feels a little bit like Mark, avoiding his grief. It still feels a little bit like I'm using you for this thing that I'm not dealing with.
Right.
Which is like my own feelings of inadequacy and my relationship with my wife. So I don't fully, I have to say, it's like something from a character logic standpoint that doesn't work for me. It's like, why does Innie Dylan stay? Unless we read this as he's still considering this and thinking it over when he realizes, oh shit, something's going down. I have to help my friend. And then he stays to support the rebellion.
Yeah, I think that was more my thinking, was that we haven't seen the fallout from this letter yet. There's kind of this immediate, much more pressing need. But yeah, I did just think I don't think that I took this as like okay, yes, I will keep existing just because you have self-esteem issues. Like that's not,
Right. And but I also think that I think that this is a much more honest conversation than the one that the Marks are having, for sure.
Yeah.
Not even close. I think that Dylan is laying it out of, first of all, I'm mad that you kissed my wife. That was shitty. You shouldn't have done that. It's like his honest reaction. His second reaction is but I understand because we're the same person. What does he say? We share the same
since we share the same physiology. Yeah.
I totally get it. Which is very funny. And then ultimately he's like, it's your call. I like knowing that you're there. It makes me feel like maybe I'm that. But it's your choice. So he does leave it to him. He's like, if you still want to do it, I'll approve it. So I think that there's I think he's being open about the fact that he doesn't Audie Dylan does not feel like he is Innie Dylan, but maybe with the existence of Innie Dylan, he will feel strong enough to one day become that. And that feels, I think, somewhat relatable on I'm very open about I'm an anxious person. I'm an agoraphobic person. These things live within me and are very difficult to deal with on a regular basis. But sometimes the way that I get through it is I maybe this is weird, but I kind of personify them a little bit. And I'll check in with myself. I'm like, hey, little anxious Josh, you all right? You okay, bud? What's going on? I know it's not going to go away. You're never going to go away. You're with me on this ride. We're here together. And sometimes you're going to win. Sometimes I'm going to win. And ideally, we're going to be able to hold hands and do this thing together. But if you decide to stay, I will live within that. If you decide to go, I will have to summon the courage to somehow be you, or I will succumb to all the things that I'm still succumbing to. So there was like, to me, this read
Yeah.
this read emotionally true to some of my experiences
Yeah.
of like feeling like I'm not worthy, I'm not enough. I'm not worth, like feelings of self-satisfaction. I'm not worth feelings of self-worth. But like there's some part of me that I know is, and I want to be that, and I know it's inside me, and it makes me feel like there's a hope, there's a chance that it's in there.
And you're doing that as a single consciousness, though, Josh.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And so obviously it
as
gets
far
much
as we
more
know.
complicated
As
on
far
the
as
show,
we
but I do think, as far as you know,
Mhm.
there could be a few actual me's in here. I think it felt very emotionally honest to like that kind of disposition. Like I feel like I've had my versions of this conversation. So for me, it totally read right. And I at least love that he's like, you can make the call. And I want to believe that if Innie Dylan then decided,
Yeah.
like, cool, I'm still checking out, that there would be hope for Audie Dylan someday, that he would have learned something from this, that he would be able to like internalize the things that Dylan was able to teach him, that Innie Dylan was able to teach him just by existing. But I'm glad that at least for now, Innie Dylan realizes that he's the strongest person on the floor by
Oh my
far, and the
goodness.
only one who
Yeah.
can physically prevent Milchick from stopping this whole shenanigans.
We needed a self-assured badass in this fight.
That's it.
Yeah, one that,
Um,
who's could compete in muscle shows.
So that's the Dylan stuff that's going on right now.
Mhm.
Simultaneously, Gemma is getting ready for the exalted victory of Cold Harbor,
Yes.
and she is being asked to wear the same exact clothes that she wore when she quote unquote died.
Yeah, she opens the closet and she has this like kind of gasp and then heavy sigh because she immediately recognizes, okay, these are the clothes that I was wearing when I died, which are presumably the clothes that she wore when she showed up there that have been kept there. So is this a costume for the moment, for the room, or is this kind of representing you're done here? Like you're done. We're letting you out of this prison, but like we're giving you your personal effects because we're done with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I think it's there's definitely like metaphor in there for sure. But I think also as far as what they're testing, like, can you go and confront your trauma, which was, everything that happened with your attempt to have children with Mark?
Right.
And can you go while wearing the clothes
As
that you
yourself.
allegedly died in as yourself? And
Mhm.
will you revert back to yourself, or will the barriers hold?
Yeah. And I do think we should save this for our theories and feedback show coming up, but I want to talk a lot more about the testing room now that we know what we know. Want to talk about like the goats now that we know what we know. Like I want to get all weird with all that stuff, but I don't want to, but we still have a lot of show to get through. So we'll put a pin in all of that and what that means.
100%. So then let's go to what's actually happening at MDR, which is, Mark catches Heli up on everything that's going on. And he's like, I don't know if this is real. Like my Audie could be a total liar. And Heli's like, but if he's not, then you have a chance at living. And Mark says, but I want to live with you. And Heli says, but I'm her. I'm her, Mark.
Yikes.
That was real sad. I don't like that. And so then Mark finishes the file while Heli is helping him. And she's been trying to think of places other than Delaware. I have Europe, Zimbabwe, and the equator. The equator? Is it a building? Maybe it's a continent. Maybe it's a building so big that it became a continent. And they both say that at the same time. It's so cute. It's so cute. It's real cute.
Very cute. Yeah, it's cute banter. I mean, this equator becomes like a little thing that they use as like their cute little code word. Interesting. What is an equator? It's the thing that divides the earth into two halves.
Wow.
So that's an interesting thematic point there.
No wasted shots in that dialogue. Very, very good. Very good. They 100% it. Drummond tells Maurer, call Mr. Egan. And then we get the green light, the smoke machine, the mannequin Kier, Ben Stiller.
So synth music is playing, and because I watched this with my husband Nathan, named character on this podcast, who's
Yes.
almost as big an NBA fan as Ben Stiller is, he said,
Hard to imagine.
that's the Bulls music. That's the 90s
Mm.
Michael Jordan Bulls music.
Were the 90s Bulls ops with the New York Knicks?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Then this is even more funny because
Yeah.
It's
Ben Stiller is
evil.
a huge Knicks guy, and so
Yeah.
the Bulls are the bad guys.
I mean, that's very funny, and I think it is 100% intentional.
Yeah, and
That's
and
hilarious.
Nathan says, very famous. The Bulls were the first team to make the whole arena go dark for their starting lineup.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So the Egans.
The
Big
Egans
Bulls
are the
guys.
Bulls. No, they're the Bulls of
Is
this Severance
is
universe.
Kier PE a renovated Chicago?
Wow.
Could it be that we're just
There's
on,
lots of Midwest theories.
on the
Great Lakes. There you
Yep.
go.
Makes sense. You have drawn my agendum closer to fulfillment, thus making you one of the most important people in history. This whole thing is so ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
Then Milchick comes out, and we have like a little bit of the, woo, Mr. DNA, where did you come from? From your blood. Like it's a little Jurassic Park. We're having a little bit of a John Hammond moment, except if like John Hammond got like cross with Mr. DNA.
This is so crazy. This like super canned like stand-up routine, it like where Milchick is kind of doing like there's some like insult comedy going on where Kier is like, you know, it's the tone is like so bizarre, the lighting is so specific, and they basically like do this little like very like I don't know like variety show of like a bygone era, it's tense. Like you need the canned applause aren't doing it. You need like a raucous audience for any of this to work if it were funny. But Milchick is like holding back rage kind of constantly. You're verbose. Good thing you didn't write the first appendix. It would have burst.
The fact that this poor man is standing up there getting roasted by this animatronic, like, oh my gosh. The fact that Milchick doesn't just like go apeshit on this Kier statue is shocking to me.
Yeah, but he does clap back. It's an honor to receive your barbs. The legacy you've left behind is truly and irrefutably larger than life. You mean my company? No, I mean this wax statue that's 5 inches taller than you actually were. There's still a little bit of canned laughter.
But it's obviously all scripted, so it's so weird. It's so weird.
I think he broke the script. I think he's breaking from the
so?
script, and that's why
I was
Kier
gonna
like
say,
turns
yeah.
to him and says, "Thank you for that feedback, Seth." My
So
question
how does
is,
the
like,
animatronic?
who is this?
Yeah,
Who is this?
yeah.
We know it's Ben Stiller doing the voice, but who is Ben Stiller on the show? Is this somehow Kier, like a rudimentary
a brain in a jar?
Yeah. Is there some way that this is a little bit brain in a jar? Like an
Maybe.
AI Kier that like
AI
has like a
Kier.
mannequin body, and this is like an early version of some of the things that they've tested. I don't know.
I don't know.
Is it just like some security person or some like person in like a higher position? Like, I don't know. Who's the man behind the curtain?
Who is
we
the,
know
who
it's
is the
Ben
Wizard
Stiller,
of Oz? Right.
but who is the Wizard of Oz on this
Ben's
show? I
behind
wanna
the
know.
curtain. Yeah.
The Ben behind the curtain.
Is he the board? Is he the board? Is this the board contributing to the meeting vocally? You know, I have questions about this. That I don't want to just. It's bizarre. It's surreal. Is it like plot wise important? I do want to like put a pin in it because I think possibly
plot
yes.
or vibes.
Yeah, plot or vibes. Lots of vibes, which might really become plot as well, is the introduction of choreography and merriment. The C&M department shows up,
C&M.
and we do a full marching band sequence to the Kier hymn. And of course, it's not a season of Severance if Mr. Milchick doesn't get to like totally rock out on the dance floor.
Incredible.
The Defiant Jazz set a high bar for a Milchick dance scene. I think that this met, if not exceeded, that high bar.
Recency bias is possibly in play. It's hard to
Possibly,
determine.
but I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And I had a moment when I was watching it where I got chills and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a GIF. I was so excited. I loved it. And nobody, like, honestly, so much good work from Tramel Tillman in this episode. But I want this man dancing. I can't wait 3 years to see him dancing on my screen again. Like, this is a potent drug and I want more of it. Amazing, amazing work. I loved everything from the marching band. I loved Milchick with the drum line. I loved all of the attitude he put in it. It was great. My question for you both is, had Milchick not been promoted to floor manager, if Harmony Coobel was still the floor manager, is she doing the drum major bit here? Would this have been her role?
I can't imagine. No, like this is a role that you invent for Milch, right? Like you hire somebody and then you're like, oh, this could do a thing. Like there's no way Coobel is doing this. I think that this is like a Milchick
She can sing.
designed event. Yeah.
Okay.
You call Harmony Coobel for the funerals, I think. I think like when you
where
need
she
like
brings her
like
drill.
the funeral dirge.
Yeah.
Like I think
That's
she's
more
the
her
one.
speed.
She's the one you call. She drills the brains. She like sends the shivers down your spine. When you need something akin to Defiant Jazz, you call Mr. Milchick. But the whole thing is so charged. I mean, there's been like there's been these these like racist undertones this season that Milchick has been dealing with, and like the whole interaction with Mannequin Kier like feels like a minstrel show. Like it feels really, really charged. And so like knowing like the rage that's already within him, and then knowing that by the end of the episode, he's like read into his motivations, whatever you're going to read into them when he's like trying to escape the bathroom. Like, is it because he's still loyal to the job, or is he just like so furious that he's trapped and he needs to break through? Even in the dance, it read to me very differently from Defiant Jazz, where Defiant Jazz for him, he's getting into it. He's getting to like have fun with the innies. He's getting to give them something. Here, this like does feel like he's excellent at his job, but this is a job, what he's doing right now. This is like a thing that they ask him to do, is like perform for us, like do the dance.
There is so a rage in it. He's almost working
but it's
something
angry.
out. Yes. Yeah. I mean, and granted, Defiant Jazz
let's pause down just for a second because of the mic issue. Sorry. I gotta put that note in for Jess. This microphone stinks. Come on. There we go. Hold on. Let me just type down the time code. Okay, you're good.
I mean, Defiant Jazz did end in fisticuffs and drawing blood. So there's a lot of violence in these musical numbers going back even to season 1 of the show. But yeah, I mean, this I thought was like such an incredible scene. And then the way that I think that it's really smart, Josh, like that you mentioned, like the racial undertones, and we have like the marching band is playing, and this is a department and these are innies, right? And I think that there's a lot of this kind of like the marching band performance that you think of like with football and Southern high schools, and like coming out of like more of an African American tradition, and the way that this department like sort of continues playing this music. And you talked about the aggression, and as the chaos starts to swirl around them, because Heli will swipe Milchick's walkie-talkie, and then she takes him at, like, she barricades him into the bathroom, and this becomes like very violent and chaotic, and the music is like playing so loudly, and you wonder like, who are the people that make up this department, and why are they continuing to play, and what is their consciousness? And like, they're almost acting as if they're they're animatronics. It's some like
Right.
there's something
Mhm.
robotic about the fact that they continue to play. And as the scene gets more and more chaotic, and I think Heli eventually does seem to kind of snap them out of that. But I thought that this was just from a standpoint of like, just the filmmaking and building the tension across the episode and having this literal drum beat as the actions are getting more chaotic and more violent. Like, I thought that this was really, really effective, but
Yes.
also made you wonder about like, who are these workers? And we've always wondered, as we're exposed to more departments at Lumon, like, how many of these severed workers are there? Like, who are they? Like, what are they going home to? Are they going home? How big is this potential army? And this idea of organized labor, or these labor uprisings or slave uprisings,
Mhm.
it's, they are a product of people finding each other and coming together, and the employers or the masters or the owners are trying to keep people apart. So I just thought that it worked thematically. It was bizarre. The music slapped. It just, on so many levels, I thought that this was a
Powerful.
really, really, really powerful component of the episode.
Yeah, the marching band kid in me loved this so much.
Well, so you were
There's
in marching band?
Yeah, I was in like competitive marching band.
What'd you play?
I played the flute,
Yeah.
and not getting to be in the drum line is, no word of a lie, one of the biggest regrets of my life.
Oh,
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I played the
Can I
flute in
tell you,
the
I hope
marching band too, Melissa.
Oh, look at you
Yeah.
I did.
2. Look at you
Mhm.
both.
Flautists.
Melissa, I hope you take this as the compliment that it's intended, but, like, you read to me as a drummer.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That is, yeah, I take that as a compliment.
Like, I see drummer in you, for sure.
Yeah,
Not
maybe one day
Drummond.
I'll pick it up. No, yeah.
Not Drummond. Not
That's
Drummond.
not a
I
compliment.
feel like if we put our minds to it, the 3 of us could, start a band.
Ooh, that
I think
sounds
we
fun.
would need a couple of years off to, like, prep it, but, like, it's gonna take 4
The
years
next
for
the
Severance to
next
come
season of
back.
Severance.
Okay.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
the time we come back, I think we may be able
I
to
know
put
a really good
the E together.
guitarist, so
There
yeah.
you go, exactly, like, it's starting to shape up already.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, this was incredible. The whole thing, and I agree with you. Like, I had a whole thought of like, oh, it's the music dance experience of this season. But I thought it was so cool because they clearly went for it, but added something new to it. So it didn't just feel like this cheap second attempt at like trying to capture that magic again. And the fact that
Mhm.
it's ongoing as Milchick's trapped in the bathroom and none of them are stopping was so well. Anyway, the colors, the movement, the music, all of it, I thought it was so, so, so fun.
So Heli is going to make her move. She's going to she and Mark will see each other at the equator because now it's time to do the stuff. She gives him the map. She takes Milchick's key card and lures him to the bathroom so that he can get trapped while Mark is going to run down the hallway towards the testing floor. So it's a lot of action at this point. Really, for much of the rest of the episode, is
Mhm.
going to be kind of like that.
Jam-packed.
Yes. Jam-packed. And we're going to get the return of Lorne. Like, while all of this is going on, here comes Gwendolyn Christie with a goat in hand. And in this moment, I'm like, oh shit, is the finale giving us goat answers?
We get goat answers,
are we getting
yeah.
goat stuff? Are we finding out what the goats are for? And to maybe no one's surprise, it does appear to be that the goats are sacrificial goats, that they're here to be killed
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
part of certain rituals. And like, obviously, a very important goat needs to be sacrificed right now because this is one of the most important days in human history. But it sounds like it is not the first goat to be sacrificed. So
Yeah.
what else
Has
have they
it
sacrificed goats
verve
for? Yeah,
wiles?
it has
Yeah,
vermin
it's
one.
not the first goat, and Drummond says that it's probably not going to be the last. Yeah, this beast will be entombed with a cherished woman whose spirit it must guide to Kier's door. Is it up to the task? So this is a goat that will be sacrificed and entombed with with a cherished woman, so presumably Gemma, and guide
Mhm.
its spirit to Kier's door.
Yes, and this cherished woman, in the meantime, is taken to Cold Harbor, and inside the Cold Harbor room It is a drab white room with a crib. And Maurer asks her as she enters, "Who are you?" She says, "I don't know." And she the music, like the familiar music is playing in here as well. Yeah, like we hear like
I'll be seeing you in all the old
Yeah.
familiar places is what's playing.
how did they know that they were so into that song? Because
They
we know
know,
that the
because
Lumon
that's what Mark
surveillance
is
sucks.
doing with the numbers. He's
I
making
guess,
a Gemma. He's
guess.
making a Gemma. There's a screwdriver in the crib. She's supposed to take it apart. I don't think we ever said this on the pod, but Melissa and I, we conferred about this before the theory show. If you look there on Reddit, you can see there have been a lot of screen grabs of the crib from the Chikai Bardo episode, and the name of the crib, the make and model of that crib, is the Col d'Arbor.
Mhm.
So Cold Harbor is a direct nod to this crib that they bought for the child that they were never able to conceive, and that as their relationship deteriorated, Mark had to take apart. And now Gemma is confronting this fertility struggle and the tension in her marriage. This is the final boss room, and she
Yeah.
has to take
And
apart the crib.
can you take your deepest trauma apart without blinking? Is sort of like the big test of, will these barriers hold? Because like you could imagine all of like the lizard people in the boardroom being like, yes, the product works. Like that is the thing. Can you sell people on like, you'll never have to think about your divorce again? You'll never have to think about the car
child
accident,
who
the child
died, or
who
like
died.
whatever. I mean, the
Your
worst
darkest thing you'll
Yeah.
never ever ever have to deal with ever again. Some other part of your body will lock that away, and you'll never think about it again. There are people who would buy that drug for sure,
Totally.
and pay for it. So it makes sense that this is like the final thing that they're testing. Certainly, as far as it being a product, as far as it being like a recreation of Kier, that I have a little bit.
No, that doesn't seem to fit as much yet. And Drummond sort of reiterates this: we commit this animal to Kier and his eternal war against pain. Right? Because if that's what Lumon is ultimately selling, that anytime something painful happens, your brain will shut down and somebody else will deal with that instead of you. That's what Kier was after, taming the tempers.
Yeah. So, I mean, that makes sense as far as like furthering Kier's agenda. But if there's anything about like recreating Kier and like trying to like, like achieve some form of like resurrection of Kier, it tracks a little less for me, at least as far as like this being super connected to that. But I may just not have, thought that all the way through. We're just watching the episode now. I'm sure people are going to have really smart takes on that. All that's going on. Dylan helps Heli with the vending machine. Lorne wonders like how many more do we need to do? As many as it takes. Meanwhile, Mark gets just like right outside of there. He cannot find like the room for the testing floor. He's banging on the walls. Drummond bursts out, "Mark S." And I love Mark being, "Oh, wrong door." Just like, trying to walk away. But I like, okay, great. We get like a really, like insane sort of action
Insane
sequence
fight.
here,
Yeah.
where like Drummond is like he's gonna choke the life out of Mark, and he is not going to like blink about it. So it feels like he's authorized to do this. So it feels like Mark was just going to be discarded anyway. Like, sorry, Devin, your brother died at work was going to be like the company line or something, like in an accident or whatever. And Lorne stops him, and Mark stops Lorne from killing Drummond.
She goes full Brienne of Tarth on mother
don't
effer.
fuck with Brienne of Tarth,
No.
Innie or Audie. That is a lesson that everyone should have learned at this point. So great to see Gwendolyn Christie in a fight scene again. And great to see that she is, so defensive of her child, Emil.
Emil. Yeah,
Emil is the name of the goat.
Adorable. Yeah, she says no more killing. But she does take Drummond within an inch of her life and his life, and Mark stops her from doing that. Maybe because of mercy, but also because he
He needs
is
this
going
dude.
to need. He needs Drummond.
Yeah, this guy is like leverage. We need
Mhm.
the leverage as much as we can get. Is a visceral scene? Is it like is it here just because we need a fight scene? I don't know. Like I could imagine not like loving this scene, but like things are getting violent, things are escalating. I think you need that reflected in some capacity, and this is the way that we do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like
We need a
Lumen
blood sacrifice in this episode, and if it's Mr. Drummond, that's fine.
There you go.
Totally.
I mean, Lumen's brutality, I think underlining that is good for understanding where we are plot wise in this finale. And then, like we've had a lot of these zoom ins on the DNA operated entry device on the testing room floor. So that's going to come into play.
Yeah. Mark tells Drummond as they get into the elevator, like, all right, well, I'm going to switch to my Audi on the way. And he pulls the trigger mid-transition. Drummond's just like, blah, and Drummond passes out and dies on the floor, bleeding out.
Whoopsie. I thought that, I mean, this is obviously like a very gruesome, bloody scene, but I thought that this like collaborations between Innie and Audie's as they switch over taking control of the body and how all of that works into the heist. I thought all of that worked super, super well. And I especially love how that kind of echoes what we've seen in the opening credits, where we literally have like Innie Mark and Audie Mark sort of carrying each other back and forth through this maze of the mind up and down the Lumen elevators. So almost everything that we had pointed out as seeming to be significant in the opening credits ends up being that.
All right, well, let's cut back to MDR. Heli knocks out Milchick with a trombone.
Mm-hmm.
That
Was this a thing
awesome.
people did in marching band? Did this happen a lot?
I mean, accidentally.
Not in the flute section. We weren't
I
getting
think that
this.
I'd be so nervous to be behind someone with a trombone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would constantly be like, "Hey, watch my head."
What about the tuba? You think
Tuba's fine. Tuba's fine. Tuba's a little alarming, but tuba I'm not afraid of because like tuba doesn't have like a protruding, like pseudopod. Like it's terrifying.
All right, watching this like C and M melee that starts to transpire here on MDR. Now I'm starting to wonder whether that grim barbarity of optics and design, like whether there was some disemboweling of people's bowels that has happened in the past on this, because things get pretty tense and bloody.
Yeah. Is it possible that C&M, they're not just like choreography and merriment?
Yeah.
Is it possible that it's choreography and military as well?
I mean, who has marching bands? Yeah.
Yeah. So you just wonder. I love how one of the people is really upset. Like, those instruments are the property of choreography and merriment. The C&M people are really great. What does one of them say at some point here? Like, the march has been compromised. I forget exactly.
Yeah.
The performance has been compromised. Yeah.
It was just like what was it? The what has been compromised?
Maybe it was the performance, or I don't know what but it's yeah.
It's just so funny because it like that felt like the season 1 finales. I found her. I'm the one who found her. Like it's just like this ridiculousness to it. So Milchick is trying to get them to go back to their department, but Heli gives the stump speech. Heli rises up, leader of the resistance. General Heli.
This is Heli's rallying cry to her comrades. This desk used to have 4 seats. Our friend Irving is gone, and they want all of our department gone. If he gets out, pointing to Milchick, we're dead.
Milchick doesn't refute that, by the way. He hears it, and he's just like kind of like sitting, like standing there.
They're going to turn us off like effing machines. You've seen them do it. I know you've lost friends too, and you could be next. And you could be next. They give us half a life and think we won't fight for it. Right, Milchick?
Yeah.
They give us half a life and think we won't fight for it. This is a badass rallying cry for the
that's
Innie
cool.
Rebellion. Yep.
Yeah. And then she says, like, please help us. And so it's this, I'm so excited to see this like build across the different departments that we know about and see how much power this collective group of people can have.
This isn't just Bert and Felicia. This is like
Yeah.
dozens of very fit marching band performers
Yeah.
here. So this seems like a pretty good army as far as what you can find on the severed floor. Like the goat people, I mean, they seem like they have some tricks up their sleeve. We know Lauren is great in a fight, but like having this kind of like military brass behind you, this is badass.
I'm trying to find Petey's map of the severed floor.
Oh,
Okay,
what a
I
great
have
idea.
found it, and just looking at it real quick, trying to think of like what else.
Can you share the screen, Joshua?
Yeah, I can, but it's like this weird folks, I'm in Japan right now, and so there's
Okay.
like strange like for some reason this like came up with like Japanese characters. So if you're watching
Okay.
this on the video version, that's why. Okay, let's share this to the screen, and looking at it, we can see it, right? So if we're looking at it,
Yeah.
there is the perpetuity wing where
Mhm.
some people might live here.
Mhm.
There is no, that's not even the perpetuity
No.
wing.
No.
There's these
Little
houses.
houses and question marks.
Mhm.
Some people might live here. There's team building. Do we know anything about team building?
The
It's
team
where they did the
building
egg drop.
space, that's where they do the egg drop. That's where we saw Bert and Felicia coming from, but I don't think we've seen our innies in the team
No.
building space.
So there's the perpetuity wing with a coil of doom that
Coil of
comes from
Doom.
there.
Definitely haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. We know that wellness, we've been there, and doesn't seem like there's anyone else in wellness. There's the break room.
Mhm.
There's the big thing, there's mind.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Could
towards
that be the
north of the
could
map.
that be the testing floor?
We could probably I wouldn't be surprised if we could follow Irving's directions from
Oh
MDR
my gosh.
through the map. But can I tell you something that we're not going to do on the podcast today? That's
That's for Reddit. What I have seen multiple Redditors do is create a map based on like say Mark or Heli's like journey through a hallway and
yes.
demonstrate that they're actually like not realistic, like they're not feasible pathways because somebody would have to go through a wall or
that's very Stanley Kubrick. Like that's very The Shining. So it's like disorientation for disorientation's sake. Like this doesn't make sense physically. So I like that. The point being again, because like you cannot help but do some speculation here and like looking into the future. Who else is down here?
Yeah.
What else is down here? And if we are in possession of the severed floor for a period of time, the possibilities of like actual exploration are finally here.
Yeah.
Damn. I want to know more. I want to know so much more. Okay, so Mark is going to find his way to Cold Harbor. He and the nurse have a little bit of an interaction where he kind of just like chases her off with like, it's sort of like when Heli was like, we'll wear Mark's face inside out and scare them off. That's sort of what Mark Scout is doing. He's wearing Innie Mark's face and scaring this person off covered in blood.
Yeah,
So
they
she
just
runs
sort
away.
of
covered in
shout
blood.
at each other like, "Let me in! No, no!"
It's like,
Step
Mr.
off.
Mauer,
Go.
Mr. Mauer.
Yeah.
The great
So
Sandra Bernhard.
she runs
Mark.
away.
She runs away, and Mark is trying to activate this like blood drop. It's very like Theranos coded. It's just like this activated doorway.
I've heard that Nathan Fielder has been visiting the severed floor of Lumon. There's a rumor that I've been hearing lately.
Am I missing a reference? And Nathan
Yeah,
Fielder?
apparently, like he's been visiting. There's rumors that he's been visiting Theranos lady
Oh,
in
really?
prison. It might be a gag.
Wow. I
For a
want to know
thing.
everything about
I want to know
that.
everything about that. I'm not sure if any of that's real, but that's the rumor that I saw. The
Okay.
rehearsal is that the next Severance Media Club? I don't know.
Wow.
Could
Please
be.
sign me up any day of the week. Yeah. So Mark's blood does not activate the blood door, but he realizes that conveniently he is soaked in Mr. Drummond's blood.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This was so clever. First of all, the tips of this nurse's fingers must be crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
how often does this woman get poked in the finger? 24 rooms, theoretically, however many times Gemma goes to them multiple times. Like, that is nuts. But
I think you would callous over. Like, I feel like she wouldn't
Right,
be able to
yeah.
use the same finger after some amount of time.
You would diversify them, right? So like
can mix it
day
up.
1 thumb, day 2 pointer. Like you just go down the list. Then you get to the piggies. So now you can like put your feet in there. So you've got like
This
20
little piggy
digits.
went wee all the way to
MDR.
Yeah, there you go. And so using his tie, he's able to attain access to the room. And we get Mark laying eyes on Gemma for the first time. It's he said he calls to her. She's startled. She holds up one of the slats of the crib to defend herself. She's like really just like a terrified animal in here. He starts to assure her, "It's me. I'm your husband. Your name is Gemma Scout. We've been married for 4 years. We had a life together." Mauer's over the intercom saying, "Don't speak to that man. He's here to hurt you." Mark says, "If you come with me right now, we can get it back." "Stop. That's not a part of the test." But Mark takes her hand and he's able to escort her to the threshold of the room and convince her to take a step out of it.
And then they kiss and he's her waking back up and they're together again.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
It is nice. And James watching, and he's like, "Oh, F." Like,
Yeah,
it's very
not going according to plan.
Mauer wants
is he?
Drummond, and it's so I don't know, some like little. It looked to me
That's
like it
like a
was
closet where you shove an intern. That's not where like the CEO of the company gets to sit.
And just to go back to it, he's escorted there, right? If I'm remembering this right, someone brings him to that room. Is it Drummond or Mauer?
I can't remember.
Be one. Yeah, I'm not
But
sure if we see.
I thought this seemed like the room where Irving and Mark are in episode 1, where they're giving Heli the like initial questions, that like tiny little kind of closet space.
I didn't think that was so white as this is. So this is curious. And he's like watching just the way that Mauer is watching from that creepy room where we saw the doppelganger group.
Yeah.
He's watching.
My question is he on either the severed floor or the testing floor? Because if he is in either of those places,
it's about to get real.
is in a bad spot for season 3. And
could be fun.
It could be fun, and it would make sense to me to leave him down there narratively if we're going to spend some time here, because like logistically, how do we spend time here without them just like sending in the guard and ending this thing?
Right.
They need some leverage. So they already have leverage in the form of Helena, but they have a lot of leverage if they've got James down there as well. So I'm trying to think of like what could keep them down there. So maybe this is already obvious and people are already screaming like, yeah, he's down there. You didn't watch the episode close enough. First of all, hey, we were watching it pretty closely, but we also have the podcast about things and there's stuff that you got to do. You don't understand. It's a lot. But I'm thinking about that as like, what can keep us in this situation?
Totally.
This situation is so rich, and I don't know if I can only assume that Amanda, you have not watched Battlestar Galactica.
I've not.
And Melissa, I don't know if you've watched BSG.
I have
don't
not.
think
It's
so.
definitely always been on my radar, but I've not.
There's an incredible development that happens at some point in BSG where like the status quo is like radically shifted and you're so excited about it. And like when they go through that status quo and they like come back and revisit it, it's excellent and it's brief. And we're only in it for a little while. And it's like the remaining episodes for that season, and there are a bunch, are a bit of a mixed bag. And it's kind of like, well, this is a mixed bag because we didn't luxuriate. And so I just really want us to luxuriate. And so I'm thinking of the ways that make sense for us to luxuriate. And one of them would be if like we got not just like our outies hostage, we've got mother effing Jane Egan down.
The big guy right to the top. It's a great point. That's why they pay you the big bucks, Josh, because what the show did like in this episode is they found these kind of credible ways in the plot that like that this act of rebellion could have gotten so far. Like Milchick doesn't have his walkie-talkie because Heli took it. Drummond is dead, so everybody's calling Drummond, right? Call Drummond, and he's gone. Sorry, he died, dude.
Yes.
And so I think that Jane being hostage is the other thing that could allow like this to not end immediately, right? Like so. I love that, and I also love the idea that Jane could be there and could be a prisoner or be, get some comeuppance because God damn it, we want to see that man suffer for his sins. He created hell. You and your family created hell, and you will burn in it. This is hell. And now Jane is stuck there.
That was one of the things that was like a delight about Succession. And I'm now actually saying Succession and meaning it instead of saying Succession and meaning Severance. One of the delights of Succession was like the magic trick was like feeling empathy for those horrible people. But then like the delight was at least you're miserable too.
Never know
like
joy.
at least
people will never know joy.
At least you are also suffering. So I think for the people that are like the hell makers, I would be very happy to watch you burn as well if I have to burn too. So I think that there's a lot of potential there. Pretty exciting.
For those keeping track at home, this podcast is hosted by somebody who's definitely seen Battlestar Galactica, somebody who's definitely not seen Battlestar Galactica, and somebody who's somewhere in the middle of those things. So you get a little bit of everything here.
Oh, you do. You get a whole variety of takes.
Yes. So Miss Casey, so we have Gemma and we have Mark, and they are free, and Gemma is now outie Gemma. It's like this beautiful, wonderful moment of reunion for both of them. And this is the Gemma that we've already seen try to escape the testing room floor. She's got some fight in her. She's no damsel in distress. So she pulls Mark's hand. They start running through the halls. The red lights are flashing and sounding the alarm, and Dylan and Heli see this too on MDR, and Milchick is still stuck in the bathroom. He regards his reflection in the mirror, and the look on his face says, "Oh fuck."
I thought that the look on his face said, "Grow up, grow up, grow up."
We're the reverse Hodor. Yeah, I think that Milchick in this episode, like, there's so much conflict and complicated emotion that's portrayed like totally wordlessly in his performance, because I don't know if we hear him utter a single word after the marching band starts playing. He does call to the C&M to go back to their offices, but for the most part, like, this is just like a very physical performance. These finales are tough on Milchick. He's got a lot of stuff to do.
A lot of ties to cut.
A lot of ties to cut.
He's hulking out on the vending machine.
Like crazy.
Mark and Gemma are making a break for it. Dr. Maurer screams, "You'll kill them all."
Yeah, he really books. Like he starts to, he realizes Drummond is not coming. He's got to make a run for it. We know how much he loves Gemma and all her 25 innies. So this is how our interpretation of you'll kill them all is you'll kill all of the Gemma innies and not that she'll kill all of, the severed employees,
Right.
all of anybody else.
Certainly worth worrying about.
Yeah.
Like the first read is like you'll kill all of my precious little Frankensteinian monsters.
Mhm.
But then like that's one read, and that's the read that I'm mostly taking. But it's
Yeah.
I've watched Lost, and this is giving the end.
Have you,
season
Josh?
3.
I never heard this before.
Folks, I'm a big fan of that show.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, we have to go back because we made a mistake. Like, is this a mistake? Is this a mistake? You'll kill
Ooh.
them all? Are you going to condemn everyone to die by doing this? I don't think it's that. I think Dr. Maurer is just like a pervy piece of shit who's afraid that all of his like
That
little Christmas
tracks.
gals are going away.
Oh gosh. those
Yeah.
little
I definitely
Christmas
thought
trees.
like it of both those scenarios when this was happening, but yeah, I definitely think we're talking about all the Gemma innies.
Those little Gemmas. So the best is they get in the elevator.
Yeah.
They're safe for a moment, so they're kissing, and then they get to the top. Mark asks, "What's taking place?"
Yeah,
What-
because it's
what's
Innie
taking
Mark and
place?
Miss Casey now being like, "What is happening?"
So funny. So funny
Yeah.
how like Mark and Gemma, who have years of history together and like so much chemistry and all of that, and then they get to the top and these two have none of that chemistry.
Yeah.
So it's so funny. It's just such a good switch.
And Miss Casey is like all of her bizarre roboticism. But Audie, like, so this is Innie Mark now. He's like being a trooper. He's sticking to the plan, even though he didn't love this plan. And he takes her by the hand and they start running. This is when Milchick finally takes down this barricade. Really like just brute strength up against this whole vending machine and Dylan and multiple brass instruments, and he knocks down the door and he like jumps onto the
Yeah,
top.
like box
This
jumps 2 feet. Like, dude is doing plyos. This is very impressive.
Great core strength.
incredible.
Great core principle strength. And what does Dylan say? Is it just like
He says, "F you, Mr.
yeah,
Milchick." It's
fuck
so
you, Mr.
good.
Milchick.
Because there's this moment where you're like, "Oh man, Milchick is like everybody's going to be in trouble," but it's like, no, Milchick's still
No.
in trouble because now he's
Yeah.
face to face with Dylan and all of C&M, and it's such a fun moment.
A potentially wonderful metaphor for what could be next for Mr. Milchick, that this entire season has been him clearly coming to some sort of discomfort, if not outright resentment and rebellion against Lumon, as he's realized what his worth looks like in their eyes, at the very least, for this thing that he has devoted his entire life to. And we talked about in the previous episode that he and Mark have that conversation, and Mark says it's just work, it's not life, right? And like Milchick doesn't have a distinction there. He's just work all the time, it seems like.
Yeah.
So here he's raging against the machine, literally raging against the vending machine. He breaks the machine. He gets out on the other side, and what's going to be on the other side of that? The consequences of his actions, right?
I mean,
so like
mhm.
whatever is next for Milchick, which we hope is like some form of redemption or peace or whatever, can't happen without some reconciliation with what he's done down here also. So the fact that he breaks through that, it's like, great. I'm glad you were able to do that, and you were able to like brute force your way through this like ethical dilemma, it seems like, maybe to some extent. But now you're face to face with all of these people who you have had a strong hand in imprisoning. So you probably got to deal with that too.
Yeah.
So even like the most optimistic look at what's next for Mr. Milchick, I think, requires some comeuppance.
It's very like the inmates are running the asylum
Mhm.
moment. Like we've talked about Milchick as like a take on a Nurse Ratched type of character. It's giving One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So this is, I think, a really, really fascinating setup to have this conflict where there is a internally conflicted Milchick who's been put in this situation and has questioned sort of, I think, how much he believes in this mission and how much he's being oppressed and taking on the role of oppressor in kind. I don't know if they're going to be ready to embrace him as a fellow comrade or what's going to come next, but I can't wait to see that. Mark,
We have to embrace the
yeah.
people that are ideologically different from us in order to
Mhm.
proceed forward. Right?
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I don't know about that.
I really
I think
don't
it's really
wanna.
No, I think it's really interesting though how Milchick is gonna like have spent this whole time starting to grapple with his own dissatisfaction with the system that he is contributing to, but now is going to be seen as a part of that system. And so what does that
Well,
does that make him more entrenched? Does that push him back further into his
Right.
like Lumen worship? Because
Yeah.
he's
I
like,
mean,
well, I'm not the bad guy here. Like, if you all are coming at me, then I'm going to push back as opposed, or will it be this like, I think it'll be really interesting to see which way that
Yeah.
goes.
Like
Also, I
sort of
have to
like
shout out,
the anti-cancellation reaction, right? It's like, oh,
yeah,
you're canceling me, and then
yeah,
just like deeper into the belly of the cancellation beast.
totally, right? Which is again very interesting to comment on our current world and how some of these things happen. I have to shout out listeners to Inside the TARDIS will know my immediate reaction to watching these two run down the hallway holding hands is that you are running faster if you are not holding hands. Why are people always running holding hands? I've shouted this out on Doctor Who so many times. Why do people run holding hands when you're running down a hallway? It's not like they're going to go anywhere else. You'll be faster if your arms are a part of the motion.
I think the faster person pulls the slower person because I do think
you can't go faster than you can go, right? Like,
oh, you can get your ass dragged. I mean, like, I think if everybody's down holding hands, I think that like there's the risk that like you separate considerably. And once you're separated, the weak one who's separated from the herd, that's toast. I think it's like we need to stick together because if I go as fast as I can and I potentially leave you behind, then
Right.
you're dead meat.
And
So I
also
respect the move. I respect the move.
The fact we sacrifice some speed from the fast person in
Yes.
order to infuse some speed
Yes.
into the slow person.
Yes. There you go.
Also, it's super cute.
It is
super cute.
And
I get it.
The frame at the end, it's like, yeah, no, it's so but here we have multiple, we have Mark pulling Gemma to make it to the stairwell. And he does. And he pushes her out the door. She crosses the threshold and turns into outie Gemma on the other side of the door. She sees Mark and she calls to him, "We got to go home." She begs him desperately. He stands there frozen. Heli appears at the opposite end of the hallway and calls to Mark. Gemma watches as Mark turns away from her to face Heli. She's begging him, "We have to get out of there, out of here." He looks back and forth. Heli gives this very plaintive, longing, tentative look. Gemma continues begging, "No, no, no, Mark, open the door." And he just slowly backs away from her as she's screaming.
She doesn't know he's severed either. So like she doesn't know that this is Innie Mark, making an Innie Mark choice. This is just like a totally baffling thing for Gemma. Like Gemma's under a lot of stress right now.
Yeah.
Has been under a lot of stress. She's finally reunited with Mark. She's turned off and turns into Miss Casey and then turns back on again on the other side of the stairwell. And I cannot imagine what she is thinking as she's watching her husband go to another woman.
She's thinking this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks.
Yeah, that's crazy. I hadn't realized that because I'm like, yeah, clearly Innie Mark has this other stuff going on, but Gemma doesn't know that he's
No, she's been lied to, right? Didn't
oh my
Dr. Maurer say
gosh.
like,
Yeah,
oh,
he said
he's
he
moved on?
Yeah, he had a daughter. Maybe he thinks that, maybe this is the woman that he has a daughter with, right? Who knows?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
wow.
So
So
this
like very
Gemma,
traumatic.
the last moment she has is they're making out on the elevator. Boom, she's on the other side of this hallway, and he's there turning his back on her.
Makes you wonder what it's going to be like when Audie Mark turns back on, because his last memory is making out with Gemma. So like when he comes back online, is he just going to be like,
I think so.
Maybe.
I think so.
just like making out with the air?
Yeah, this is like so heartbreaking, such a heartbreaking scene. Windmills of Your Mind is playing.
I believe an Oscar-winning song as portrayed in the Thomas Crown Affair, a heist film. And I think that you could definitely argue that this episode was a heist. That we heisted Gemma out of Lumon.
Yeah, a body heist, exactly, Melissa. So Mark slowly makes his way to Heli. They look deeply into each other's eyes. He takes her hand.
I thought they were about to just make out in front of Gemma, and I was like,
me too. I was livid.
We can't be doing that.
Don't do it, dude. Like, do not make out with your new girlfriend.
Run away, run down the other hallway at least. Have some decorum.
Yeah, right?
Round the bend.
Heli gets a last look at Gemma, who is just begging and pleading and having one of the worst days of a very rough life, I have to say. And then Mark and Heli together start running through the halls hand in hand, much to Melissa's chagrin. They look at each other and smile as they run. It slows to slow motion. They have the red light strobe effect as they progress down the hall. And then we get this grainy, beautiful freeze frame that
very
zooms
70s,
in as the song ends. It fades to red. And then we get absolutely sick closing credits.
They're so cool. Yeah. So a few things. First of all, Heli's wearing no shoes as she runs down the hallway, which means serious business is about to happen. There's no time for heels.
Damn right.
Which I thought was very funny. But also I do just have to put it out there. This look of Heli to Gemma did make me wonder if this was Helena Egan.
Oh no, another is it Helena Egan?
I'm just saying. Just saying it's possible.
No.
Well, we talked about the elevator B flats and B sharps. I don't know what it is. I'm not a musical person, despite my marching band career, but like that they have pointed out.
When we come back in 4 years, we'll have that cracked because we formed our band.
Figured that out.
Yeah.
I think that this is Heli. I definitely think that
I would be real upset. I'd be real upset.
You always have that. You always
because
have
it just
to
seemed a little
right,
smug, maybe just a little bit like I got what I wanted. Like it didn't seem there was no like I don't know.
They're the same person though. Maybe this is how Heli becomes the bitch that Helena is.
Maybe
or is it a Helene?
Oh no, was Helene foreshadowing?
Helene,
like another severed version.
I don't know. This was just such an electric episode. I mean, what a great way to end the season. Like, I think that comparing it to like the heart thumping adrenaline rush of the first season and She's Alive. I was like really, really edge of my seat throughout that episode. This was a little bit more of a journey and like less of kind of like just being on a speeding bullet train. Like I felt like this had a different pace, not to say that one is better than the other, but this felt like, and I hate to say it because this is not the universe I want to live in. If it had to be a finale, a series finale, it could be.
Yes. There is allegedly the writer's room for season 3. Like we're gonna get a third season of Severance. Barring like difficulties that could occur. You never know.
What could happen? What could go wrong?
You never know. Barring unpreventables.
Could there be a pandemic or a strike or like the end of the world?
We don't know. But I do think it's nice to frame it that way, just in case. Just in case this is the end. It's an ending of sorts. I don't think I'd be satisfied, but if it had to be the ending, other shows that I've loved have been like prematurely canceled and have had endings that I've had to like kind of like contort my head to look at and be like, oh, you know what? That works for Lindsay Weir. Like that made sense. Like I can kind of live there. Like certain shows that just didn't mean to end where they ended. This would be okay, but the other piece of it that makes this really different from the season 1 finale, I feel like, is there is so much more room and just so many more things to speculate on going into season 2. Like season 1 ended with that huge explosive cliffhanger, and we just didn't have enough information about the show yet, even in season 1, to really be able to like think kind of like, okay, well, when they get turned back on, this is going to happen. Like here, the ending of season 2, like I do think like you can start already making some like fan fiction connections to like the next things that are going to happen, and some of those things are gonna materialize on the show. Like the idea of Heli and Helena having a conversation between the testing floor and the severed floor, like those kinds of things that you can now think about. The Dylans talking, Jamie Egan being down there hiding, like what else is out there? Like look at that PD map again. Like there's so many things that you can like actively think about given where we're left off in season 2. So on that level, as far as like how the season finale sets up the next season, at least on that level, this is a superior finale for me.
Yeah.
I'm again like not saying one episode is better than the other, but particularly on that level of like thinking now about the next season, I feel like I have a lot of ideas about where the show could go in a way that for season 1, I was just like, you're ending there. Oh my God, my heart's out of my chest. And that was crazy and amazing, but I don't know where you're going to go next. And now I still don't know where the show is going to go next, but I've got some like vivid ideas of where it could go. And that's really, really cool.
Maybe people will accuse me of sucking kneecaps, and everyone knows that Ben Stiller is a close personal friend of mine. So maybe I can't be objective about this, but I actually think that this finale perfectly threads the needle between being a satisfying resolution of something that is in and of itself a complete piece of art, while also giving us such a fascinating on-ramp to so many things that the show could do next. Because I do believe that this finale delivered on the absolute essential promises that you would have needed to fulfill before Severance ended, which is, what is MDR doing? We know what that is. What is Gemma alive, right? Like
will she be freed?
Well, I feel like the things that you would feel cheated if the show never answered those questions. You would feel like they didn't do right by this story. I think they
What are the goats?
mostly satisfy that. Well, I think they mostly answered those. They mostly check those boxes. And if this is the end, I mean, it's a brutal commentary on like whatever this means for this fascinating concept of two consciousnesses sharing a body. It's heartbreaking. It's also like exciting. It's also, I think that it ends in a way where it makes some interesting statements that fulfill some fascinating arcs for the character. It also satisfies those like essential mysteries. So it does stand alone. Like, but of course, there's so much more that the show could do with it. We got a send off for Irving. I think people would still probably want to know more about what the hell his deal was. But I think a lot, like, it's kind of impressive for as much as we might have commented that some of the episodes meandered or that, some parts of the plot weren't moving quickly enough. It's sort of impressive just how much plot season 2
the finale was
got
able
through,
to
and that the
handle.
finale really, really wrapped a nice bow around a lot of those pieces.
Yeah, we know so much more now than we did. And like so much of it was stuff that we speculated about, but obviously the show hadn't confirmed that yet. There was always the chance that, the numbers weren't just Gemma's tempers, right? And so there are so many things now that we know. We know what the goats do. We know what the numbers were. We know Gemma got out all of this. And so I think it's really interesting that going into season 3, it's going to be much less about the mysteries of Severance and much more about these characters and the results of this world that they are in, right? So what is going to be the fallout of all of this? What is going to be the emotional fallout of Gemma being there without Mark? How is this question of how do you satisfy both an Innie and an Audie Mark? Like who wins? What is going to be the inevitable outcome when it, has been made abundantly clear that reintegration is not going to be the answer here, that I think many of us hoped it would be, in a way to like make both of them, continue to have a life, right? So I think that that's really interesting, that it's now much more these like big plot character based questions as opposed to just like, what are the goats about?
Yeah. And that's a show that I like very, very much want to watch, because I think that like the thing that a lot of us worried about with Severance, and I know for some people it crossed the line into this, that this was a show that was potentially going to bury itself in its own like plot, and like that it was potential that the mysteries would become so numerous and so convoluted that we would miss the opportunity to get these satisfying character stories. So I think clearing some of that off the board, and now that we sort of know what's what and who's who and have a better handle on their motivations, I think that the opportunity to do some really, really fantastic work with these writers and these actors and these directors, I think that's a huge, huge upside.
I'm hyped. I'm very excited. I thought a propulsive finale, a finale that took on a lot of the mystery of the show, gave us some like very deep character moments, gave us a really visceral ride. Great stuff. I really loved the finale, and I definitely have had my own particular feelings about some of the pacing around season 2. And a couple of like the ways that we've like bobbed and weaved through the season. And I feel so positively about how we have set things up for the road ahead, that I like sight unseen, like the season 3 of my mind's eye is awesome. And just cannot wait to get there. Brutally devastated that it's over for now. The podcast ain't over. We got more to do. Theories and feedback, of course. Perhaps a surprise guest or two. We're working on some stuff behind the scenes, so stay tuned to the feed to make sure you don't miss any of that stuff. Severance.com. And I'm sure we'll have some bonus off-season podcasts as well. I know that we're going to take a few weeks to think about this, to let it marinate, and then we're going to get back together early April, I think, to do a little bit of like a season 2 performance review. I think we should do one of those.
Okay.
I think that would be fair to do. And I think like a season 3, like a list of demands. What are our demands? What are our non-negotiables? So that's going to be a very fun podcast as well that you can look out for early April. Before that, theories and feedback, maybe some bonus pods as well with some special guests. So don't unsubscribe. Stay subscribed. Spread the word. Severance.com. The journey continues here on the podcast, at least for a little while. And if you like what we're doing here on RHAP, subscribe to the whole scripted feed. Go to WeKnowScriptedTV.com for White Lotus, for Daredevil, Andor coming up, Last of Us coming up, lots of TV coming your way, and we are covering a whole bunch of it. You can keep in touch with all of us by sending in your feedback. Severance, RHAP @gmail.com. That is our feedback line. SeveranceRHAP@gmail.com. We're also on the internets. I'm at Round Howard. Dr. Melissa, where are you? What do you got going on Whirlwind?
Yeah, all the usual. Melissa Woodward 28, Doctor Who, Veronica Mars. We are coming up to our 1-year anniversary of Whirlwind, which is very exciting.
That's awesome.
So we are recording a very special 1-year anniversary pod in which Adam, Lindy, Todd, Sarah, and myself are like founding 5, talk about the last year and share some of our favorite clips. So check that out. Subscribe to the Whirlwind pod on your social media and see when that comes out.
Nice. Dr. Amanda, what's going on with you and crying, laughing?
We are crying and laughing our way through season 3 of The White Lotus, which is, I think episode 5 was like such a freaking explosive episode. I mean, to have the Severance finale in the same week that we had episode 5 of The White Lotus. What a time. What a time to be alive. But you can keep up with everything that I'm doing on the internet at Dr. Amanda R, and you can follow the podcast at Cry Laugh Pod.
Amazing. All right, folks. We would love to hear from you on all things Severance for the feedback show, for the theories show. If there's so much theories and feedback, we'll have to do another one. So just
Wow.
keep it rolling,
Yeah.
keep it coming. We'll keep this thing online as long as it feels like we're not just treading water, because eventually we'll run
Maybe
out
a
of
little
things.
bit past that. Who knows?
We will typically a little past that.
Yeah.
If it's anything, if past is prologue. So make sure you're sticking around. We know severance.com. Until then, everybody, take care of the whirlwind of your mind, and we'll be back in a couple of days. Bye.